sounds naive, but I thought I knew what I was getting into, becoming a parent. I'd planned, I'd prepared. I mean, you don't become a foster to adopt mom by forgetting birth control one night. It's a lengthy, deliberate process. And after months of trainings and certifications, I remember the caseworker asking me how many children I wanted my home to be licensed for. 1, I said. As a single person entering parenthood for the first time, I didn't think that the children should outnumber the grown-up. Let's write down 2, she said. You never know what might happen. So I let her write down 2, but I knew I would not be accepting more than 1. Well, I got my first call about a baby girl who'd been abandoned in the NICU. As soon as I answered the phone, my heart started pounding with anticipation and a big giant yes. It only took 24 hours, but it felt like forever before I got to meet her, until I was finally standing there at the NICU entrance and a nurse led me past rows of beds containing the tiniest bodies all the way to the back, and there she was, Layla. Bright red hair, all 4 pounds of her swaddled in a fluffy pink blanket. I picked her up, and instantly, irrevocably, it was like all the cells in my body reconfigured into the shape of mother. The caseworker, the social worker, the nurses all said this would be an adoption case for sure on account of the fact that she'd been abandoned for 6 weeks. So I thought, this is it. I'm a mom now. I will foster this one baby until she's available for adoption, and then my family will be complete. What we didn't know was that within weeks, a cousin in Layla's family would come forward, and the courts would move Layla to live with her. Foster parents are supposed to be prepared for this. But I wasn't prepared for how strong our bond would feel, how heart-wrenching the separation. I can still picture the caseworker loading her tiny body into this car seat that nearly swallowed her. And as they drove away, I felt my heart cave in on itself. Biologically, there are 2 phases to the heart's pumping cycle. Systole, when the heart contracts, and diastole, when the heart relaxes and the chambers fill with blood. About a month after Layla left, I got a call about Granada. And I was scared because my love for Layla had been, still was, so complete. What if I couldn't conjure the same depth of attachment for someone new? Couldn't love with the same totality, even though that is what every child deserves? Nervously, I said yes, and 45 minutes later, she was on my doorstep. They just hand me this 2-day-old baby, and my first thought was, she's not Layla. My chest contracted with grief. But my second thought was, God, I love her too. And I felt the muscles in my heart relax. Granada was this big, blue-eyed delight, the happiest baby. And as the months passed, I started to think this was the baby I was going to adopt. What I never expected was that I would get another phone call about Layla. She was 10 months old at the time, and her femur had been broken. She needed new placement immediately. I didn't hesitate. So overnight, I became a single mom to 2 infants. I'd used up all my family leave at work that year on foster care, so I picked Layla up from the hospital and somehow went back to work the next day. Meanwhile, friends brought over all the extras I now needed: another car seat, another crib, more bottles, more diapers. My parents rearranged my house to make room. Like that scene in The Grinch where his heart grows 3 sizes. It was like we experienced this collective heart expansion. 2 kids now? Diastole will make room. In all my dreaming of being a mom, I had never pictured being a mom of 2 babies 3 months apart in age. I had never dreamed of needing a double stroller, of carrying a baby on each hip, of poking diapers up into a cast, of waking up all night to comfort a baby who already had night terrors at the age of 10 months old. was getting a lot of practice at welcoming the unexpected. Even so, it didn't make embracing the unexpected easy. Around Karnata's first birthday, the courts moved her to live with her biological mom. She'd been with me her whole life. It's another kid I had to release without knowing if they would be safe. I was afraid. Systole. The heart contracts. But I had to let her go. Diastole. The heart opens. Now, the state of Texas doesn't really encourage relationships between biological parents and foster parents. But at this point, I'm not exactly tethered to expectations of how things normally go. So I reached out, and while a birth parent might feel threatened by a foster parent, to my relief, not Heather. She opened her heart to me. I opened my heart to her. By the time I was getting to adopt Layla about a year later, Karnata and Heather are right there to celebrate with me. One day I asked Heather if she would be interested in making my connection to Karnata official, because if something happened to Heather, if she died in a freak accident, I have no legal tie to Karnata. She could end up back in the system. And Heather says, yeah, if something happens to me, I want you to be her mom. So we hire a lawyer, we start drawing up paperwork, but before we can complete it, something else happens. A global pandemic hits. And like many people who've struggled with addiction, Karnata's mom fell back into hers. As a result, the courts moved Karnata back to live with me, and I imagine Heather's heart caved in on itself. Meanwhile, there's this whole other thing happening in my life, which is that I finally come out to my parents as queer. They've been so involved in my parenting journey that I harbor this secret hope that grandchildren will somehow keep us connected, sort of soften the blow of learning that I am gay, as if queerness is a bit of bad news rather than a celebration of who I am. My parents respond that they don't ever want me to bring home a partner. I am no longer welcome home as myself. And while this is devastating to lose my sense of home with my family of origin, there is this other side of coming out in which it feels like coming home to myself. I am opening my heart not just to my children, but to me. I am fostering an open-hearted acceptance of who I am. In her own way, Heather is doing self-acceptance work as she recovers from addiction. And as of today, she has been clean and sober for over 2 years. And now we are both Karnata's legal guardians. My parents and I still barely talk, but meanwhile, Heather and I are building a family. We share custody, we make decisions together. Karnata spends half her time with Heather and half with me. She calls both of us mommy. We don't have any contact with Layla's family, but Heather and her new husband have embraced Layla as part of their family too. We have vacations together, we spend holidays together. I recently asked them, if anything ever happened to me, if I died in a freak accident, would you take Layla? Yeah, they said. Absolutely. I think I've come to understand this. No matter what form parenting takes, no matter what shape love takes, control is an illusion. Love isn't beautiful because it unfolds according to plan. Love is beautiful because of the way it persists through all the unexpected twists. In my case, some of those twists felt a bit dramatic, but I think what all that change allowed me to do was practice letting my heart beat. Constrict, open. Grieve, open. Tighten with fear, open. Squeeze shut in pain, open. Again and again, the reopening. Parenthood maybe love itself is this continual exercise in letting go of expectations. Because there are 1,000 ways I cannot ensure my kids' safety, or control the outcome, or dictate who they grow up to be or to love, but there is one thing I can and will do. Every time my kid comes home, I will have an open heart ready to receive them.